guys, welcome to our podcast this week. This is Jake. I'm wife, Crazy Life of Jake and Wife.
She does have a name, Emily. By the way, we only called it Jake and Wife because in the beginning
It
of our marriage, we
rhymes.
always called her wife, and she loved it. And I loved it because she was my wife. It's fantastic.
Yeah,
But
we love it. It's all good.
wanted to do a
But
quick...
I'm Emily, or Em. This is Jake, and we wanted to recap the week real quick. So we just decided we'd add that little segment to just make it what was crazy this week.
This week, I hurt myself pretty bad. I know I had just had shoulder surgery, but I've had a bulge disc for quite a few years, and I normally can keep it under control. Like I feel it flare up, and I either go get a massage, go to the chiropractor, but I do stuff and it goes away, and I usually have just a really easy life. I can ride motorcycles and bike and everything. And a couple weeks ago, my back started hurting. Well, I guess just feeling
Achy.
tight and not feeling great, and I was like, I just don't feel great. And I normally go schedule something at this point. I didn't. And I went to bend down to pick up a cable, literally something like this, underneath the sofa. And when I bent down, and I wouldn't like bend over, like it wasn't even, I was being right. I squatted because my back was already hurting. But I grabbed the cable, I grabbed it underneath the sofa to barely put pressure to move that cable out, and my disc herniated right into my nerves, and literally immediately went down on the ground. I had to probably repent a little bit on Sunday for some of the words that I said. But there were guys standing around me. My wife was standing around me. And they all saw in my face. Jesus even told me, one of our workers, he's like, I have never seen your face like that, Jake. He's like, I knew something was bad just because that. He's like, dude, it was bad.
Yeah. And Jesus picked him up.
I immediately went down on the ground, and I literally couldn't use my legs. I was paralyzed there for a second. Jesus and my wife picked me up, carried me to a bed. I called my chiropractor. He came over and kind of helped work on my psoas muscles and some things to hope maybe loosen it up. Really didn't help much. Finally was able to go back over to his office. Eventually, though, I make it home, and I laid in bed for 4 days. 4 days I couldn't move. I had to get a walker.
We had to get him a walker so he could go to the bathroom.
33-year-old man walker. And I'm in the bathroom, all dead waiting this walker to try to go to the bathroom. And by the way, just had shoulder surgery, if you remember. Mm-hmm. So I'm not supposed to be lifting this much weight anyway. This much weight, by the way. And I'm holding myself, trying to go to the bathroom with this. It has been a horrible week.
He was pretty miserable for that whole experience.
Terrible.
And
finally, we make it over, though. I got a new MRI. The disc had herniated. It's pushing into the S1 nerve. But we go to the...
so this is what I would say as a wife.
Yeah.
To the husbands out there. When the doctors offer you the pain medicine, just take the pain medicine. Even if you're not going to take it when you get home, take the prescription, okay? Because he is tough guy, and he was on morphine in the hospital, and he's like, I don't need any pain medicine.
I felt great.
Yeah.
Well, not great. I just felt better.
You felt better.
The edge was gone.
And anyway, so when we got home, he spent the next 2 days just taking the ibuprofen and the muscle relaxer they gave him, but it wasn't cutting it.
Not even close.
And finally one night he's just like, is there anything else? Do we have anything else?
What do you have?
What do you have? And I was like, well, so I went back. I had a surgery, and I had some pain medicine from it, and I got him one of those and added that. And the next morning, can I have some more of that?
Yeah.
So even if you aren't the type to take pain medication, put it in your safe or something for the apocalypse. Take the prescription.
I hate feeling loopy or floaty, and some of the pain med I've had in the past does it to me.
But what we've done to get it all fixed up is chiropractor, massage.
Well, but I went to this company in town. They do a guided, like with an MRI injection, a cortisone injection. That, by the way, was a terrible experience. I go in. The needles are
it helped.
The experience was terrible, okay? I got to tell you about the experience. Go in. The needles are this big. He puts this needle in a couple to deaden it a little bit, the small ones, and then he goes in and he has to put this dye in your back so he can actually see where the injection's going. And he puts this in, and as soon as he does that, you have such a small area in your spine to be able to put fluid. He puts this fluid in, and it swells, and it puts all the pressure back on that nerve, and my leg goes completely dead, like
numb.
Completely numb, no feeling, can't move it. And I'm like, hey, my leg is numb. Like, I'm like, that just shot down my leg. I can't feel it at all. He goes, yeah, sometimes that can happen. Sometimes that can happen. And he's like, yeah, it should come back here in the next few hours. Should come back? My freaking leg doesn't work. That scared the crap out of me. And then he gives me the injection of the other fluid, the cortisone, the steroid, which put even more pressure. And they wheel me out to the waiting room. And while I'm in the waiting room, I start to just go white. I profusely start to sweat.
He had a vasovagal response.
My dad touches my chest. He's like, Jake, you are soaked. I'm like, Dad, I'm going to pass out. And if you know my dad, he starts to freak out at this point. He's like, what do I do? What do I do? I'm like, I guess take care of my body if I fall. And he's like, don't say that. What do I do? And I'm like, I'm going to pass out, dude.
So he runs back.
So he goes to the do not open door, throws the door open. He's going to pass out. He needs some smelling salts. He needs something. And so like 4 nurses run out and they're like, oh, dude, you're white. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to pass out. They're like, yeah, we can see that. Can we lay you on the floor? By the way, I'm in the waiting room. There's 20 other people in this room. And so I'm definitely creating a scene.
Got a show.
And so they kind of throw me on the ground and my leg doesn't work, so I can't move it. And so it's like folding underneath me. They grab both my legs, immediately throw them up straight. I didn't know this worked, by the way. And all of a sudden, this blood rushes back to my head and I start to feel better. They bust some smelling salts. Woo! Get a little kick. That helped. But I had to lay on the floor there for 5 minutes and have everybody stare at me. Oh, hey, I think that's Jake from, that furniture store in town. That was crazy. Anyway, and then finally they throw me back in a recliner. I had to stay there for 30 minutes before I actually felt good. And then I got some tingly sensation in my leg, which made me know I was going to get feeling back, which was great. Get me on the wheelchair, take me home, and luckily I have the best wife in the world. Speaking of wife, we talked a little bit in our last podcast about our kids and how the pregnancies went, and they weren't very fun. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that, how our son came home at 4 pounds, and kind of what led into that. Now, this was our first kid, so
yeah, we got a couple of crazy.
Since you baked the
things.
kid,
I did bake.
Luckily, I did give him half of his looks for about 30 seconds of work, but just kidding. Sorry, everybody understands.
Oh man, Brooks looks most like you.
He does. It's fantastic.
So our first pregnancy, it was rough. All of my pregnancies were rough. I was sick. I was really sick every time. And then I think I was sick until like 24 weeks, which is roughly getting close to between 5 and 6 months pregnant with Brooks. And then I had like a 4-week reprieve. And then at 28 weeks, I was diagnosed with preeclampsia. They used to call that toxemia. It's basically the same thing. What it is actually is that your body is rejecting the pregnancy. Your body, they don't even know exactly what causes it, but there's a theory that it's actually got to do with your husband's DNA in your body and your body not liking that, kind of annoyed with that.
It's almost like it's a parasite. Your body's trying to actually get rid of.
So what the body does is it starts actually to shut down your organs so that you stop feeding the baby. And so that it will stop growing and it will die, basically. And so
pretty rough. I remember
it is rough.
I remember you being sick all the time, and then it raises your blood pressure through the roof.
Yeah, so it also kind of fries your central nervous system a little bit. So it
puts a lot on mama's body.
I think the hard part was you usually don't get it until your second trimester, which is good because you really don't have a lot of time to have it. You really don't.
And full term, for those who don't know, is what,
40 weeks? 40 weeks. But 37 is considered good enough, most of the time.
And so we were at
34 and a half.
Where were you at this point?
Okay, so 28 weeks in, I was diagnosed. They start monitoring you just constantly, right? They're just checking you twice a week, making sure everything's good, checking your blood pressure. Blood pressure was just barely getting up there, but mine's always low to start, so it's high for me. And then with blood pressure, heightened blood pressure, you get really bad migraine, like headaches, and you get that constantly. It never goes away because your blood pressure is high. So you get just to have a headache for as long as you're pregnant. And then also just spotty vision. That's the central nervous system. I had dots and spots in my vision all the time. And then they will kind of hold out there. If you have some of the symptoms, but not all of the symptoms yet, they're going to hold you to bake the baby as long as possible. And then they checked every week. I would go in like twice a week and we'd
do an ultrasound.
Do blood pressure, ultrasound. They're checking to make sure that the baby's still getting everything they need, that they're at least still growing a little bit. They expect them to be small. They call it IUGR, intrauterine growth restriction.
I'm surprised we didn't have a way bigger bill because we were there.
So much.
All the time.
And then they do
most pregnancies you go a couple times and then you have your baby.
Yeah. And then they do
a few times a week.
They do protein. They check your protein in your urine because that's where your kidneys show that there's an issue. So we were doing pretty good. We were plugging along. It was the crazy thing happened 34 and a half weeks in. I woke up in the morning and
So we're a month and a half almost early.
Yes. And I was bleeding. I was bleeding pretty heavily, and that is not normal. And I called my doctor and I went in, and I'm not going to lie, I was a little bit annoyed because I had to see the on-call, and the on-call is a midwife. And so now I have a bad taste in my mouth about midwives, and that's okay. That's my own personal experience. But she basically asked me if I felt like I really needed an ultrasound. And I was like, yes, I am high risk bad. And I am bleeding and I need help. And I went in, and the ultrasound tech was actually my next door neighbor. And she looked at it and she said, listen, Emily, I know there's a tear in there somewhere, but I can't find it. So I can't tell them that there's a tear in there.
And she's incredibly good. She's been like one of the best.
She's like 30 years experience at that point.
Techs, yeah.
And so I went back to the doctor, and she told me, well, go home and let it clot. And so she said, if it's not fixed by tomorrow, come back. It had clotted by the next day. So I went home, or I was home for one more week. That happened on a Monday. The next Monday, I woke up in the morning. My mother-in-law called me.
Dude, this right here, if you don't believe in God, you just have to, because everything about this
whole situation was absolutely like just guardian angels.
If it would have gone any other way from that beginning of that day to different, we would not have a kid or her sitting here. Like
probably
both. Every single step to the rest of this story, literally, I wouldn't have a wife or a kid at this point. So you can tell the rest of the story. So I can sit here and not cry.
Yeah, I'll probably cry, but it's okay. So it was like 10 a.m. I was on bed rest. I'd been on bed rest since 28 weeks. That's the other part. You can't do anything. You literally, because your blood pressure is already high, you just kind of have to sit at home, be anxious, and think about trying to keep your baby inside. And so I woke up in the morning. My mother-in-law called me. His mom called me. And she said, you need to take your blood pressure right now. I don't know why, but I have a feeling you need to take it right now. At that point, I was logging it several times a day because my doctor wanted to see a trend. And so I was like, that's fine. I actually haven't.
You were usually only like 125, 130 over.
It was usually like 135 over 80. So it wasn't crazy.
But for her, it was.
It was still high for me. 140 over 90 was kind of my average height at that point. So I went into the kitchen. I literally just stepped out of bed. I had not been up yet. I went in, I took my blood pressure, and it was 160 over 112. And so I called the doctor's office, and he said, well, just go to the hospital and have them start monitoring you. So that was like blessing number one right there. We went straight to the hospital, got in there, and I was definitely slightly dehydrated because I was still sick, and I had a headache all the time, and I never wanted to drink anything. So I had like no fluids, but we did a urine test, and they took some blood tests, and they came back an hour later maybe, and they said, well,
you're having a baby.
They said, your kidneys are shutting down, so time to pull the plug and get the baby out.
Yeah, and we're 36 at this point?
35 and a half.
35 and a half. So a month and a half early.
About a month.
And that last month is when that kid develops.
They gain like 2 pounds a week in the last month.
Like lung strength, everything.
Is that right? A pound a week in the last month? Something like that. Anyway, so not 2 pounds. It's definitely a pound a week.
If that.
And so.
But the last month is very crucial for the baby development typically.
Yeah. So lung development specifically. Yeah. So after we, they decided we were pulling the plug, they put me on Pitocin to induce labor. Which
I don't know if you can tell this kind of square jaw already.
No, that was the magnesium sulfate.
Oh, maybe that's it.
So they put me on Pitocin because it's a smooth muscle contractant, so it makes the uterus contract to get the baby out, right? That's what the point of the Pitocin is, for inducing labor. But they gave me magnesium sulfate, which is actually to make your body not have seizures, because you are stressing out your central nervous system and you already have high blood pressure.
But it swells you.
It makes you swell. It makes you feel like you're on fire and you have steam coming out your ears. And it made my face. Jake called me Lego head.
I wasn't being mean. I didn't know the situation, what we were going into, but
it was loving.
But holy cow, man. She had the most perfect square head. She
It
looked
was
just
funny.
like he
it was
just
just
took a Lego.
he just like looked at me. He's like, "You look like you have a Lego."
Oh, I'm so sorry. And I knew she felt horrible. Like she felt terrible.
I probably wasn't happy at the moment, but I can see it was, with love now.
But
So anyway,
this part gets pretty intense.
So it was like 3:30 in the afternoon when they put me on Pitocin, and I spent the day on it, just not changing much. I think I was
No
at like
dilation.
a 3, dilated to like a 3, which is centimeters, right? If you've had a baby, the measurements are up to like 10.
10's when you're ready to have that baby.
So we were at like a 3 at like 11 o'clock that night. And so they put me on, I'd never actually taken much medication, but they gave me a sleeping pill at about 11:45.
And she's a lightweight.
Because I could not sleep through the contractions. And at that point, they came, I didn't fall asleep. It was weird.
I think you were like a little lucid from here, so maybe I can tell the story
Well,
from
hang
here.
on one second.
just
I'll
kidding, I
hand it
can't.
over to you. Give me one second. I have specific, very vivid memories of this. But at about 11:45, I like slept for maybe like 45 minutes, and then I woke up and I thought I had to go to the bathroom, and I called the nurse in to help me go to the bathroom, and when she pulled back the blanket, the entire bed was covered in blood.
It was.
I had just
full
been
of blood.
bleeding in bed for who knows how long.
Yeah.
And it was weird because my blood pressure and everything was high on the screen until I saw it. Like my brain didn't know I was bleeding out until my eyes witnessed the blood. And so then my heart rate dropped to 20 beats per minute. My blood pressure dropped to 80 over 50.
The nurse at
turned
this
purple.
point, the nurse, she saw this and she immediately, I don't know if you saw her face, but I remember seeing the nurse's face like, oh crap.
Yeah.
And immediately I'm watching the monitor.
She was trying to find Brooks.
She was trying to find the
She
heartbeat,
had
couldn't
the,
find the heartbeat.
The gel was too sticky, so she was having a hard time finding the heart rate.
But I'm watching the monitor for M, and her heart rate goes from 70 beats per minute to 40 beats per minute to
20.
30, and then all of a sudden like 18 beats per minute. I see my wife just like kind of conk out.
And he and my mom are in the corner.
And I just, what scared me, I think, the most is at this point, the nurse literally grabs the bed.
Well, she ran to the hall, I think, first.
She ran to the hall, started yelling. She said, I need a doctor now. I need a doctor now. She came back in. She grabbed the bed. And my wife at this point is like, literally looked like she just died. Her color is completely gone. And her heart rate and everything on the monitor literally crashed. And at this point, the nurse grabs the bed and runs, and it rips the cord out of the wall and broke the socket off the wall. And so everything it was plugged into, she literally just broke it out and just started running this bed out of the hall and said, I need a doctor now.
It was cool
Ran into the
too.
OR.
This nurse was my young women's leader.
Yeah,
She was
all
one of my
growing
young
up.
women's leader when I was growing
So
up.
she knew her.
Was personally invested a little bit.
But she was frantic. She wasn't like calm and collected. She was frantic and she was nervous and she was yelling. And that freaking just killed me. At that point, I was like, oh, crap. And I almost lost it there. I was trying to hold everything together. And this is another miracle at this point, okay? So we're already at the hospital. You're out, and doctors don't hang out at the hospital to just have babies. You wait, they wait, because they don't know when baby's going to be ready. And when the nurse is finally, when you're dilated enough, the nurse calls the doctor and says, hey, it's now time for you to come because we're going to deliver this baby. And so they get our doctor on the phone, start calling him, hey,
It's
we
after
need
midnight. My doctor wasn't there.
We need an emergency C-section right now. And luckily, actually, our neighbor, one of our neighbors, a profound doctor in this area, everybody knows him, he was just there talking.
He just delivered a baby.
He
was
just
in
delivered
his
a baby
street clothes.
like
He's
an
just-
hour and a half earlier.
He was hanging out.
But he was just hanging out there talking.
He delivered my brother too.
Yeah.
My youngest brother, and he knew us. He's our neighbor, and so he saw
we go to
Jake
church together.
and my mom in the hallway crying.
And he was and so luckily he was just random, like he shouldn't have been there. He shouldn't have been there. It was an hour and a half after. He shouldn't have been there. He was there. And so in his street clothes and everything, he's like, I'm in. So they run in. They close the door in the operating room. He runs in there in his street clothes.
And the on-call was in there too.
Yep.
So the
Run in
on-call
and
went
slam the door. And I am out in the hall with my mother-in-law at this point, just freaking sobbing. Now, this is the craziest part. I'm going to pull it together because the story's good. They probably had that door closed for literally 2 to 5 minutes max. And all of a sudden, this same doctor, he comes back out, and he's freaking got crap all over him. And he said, hey, let's go see your baby. And I was like, you're done? He's out? He said, let's go see your baby.
I remember you telling me he tracked bloody footprints to the door.
It was bad. And so I told him, I said, I don't want to see my baby. Now, at this point, by the way, I'm not a dad. I don't know how to be a dad yet. I've never been a dad, so I know this sounds really bad, but at my thought, geez, I can make a new kid. I just want to make sure my wife's okay. So he comes out and he says, let's go see your kid. And I said, no, how's my wife? He says, we got to stop the bleeding, but let's go see your kid. I said, no, I want to see my wife. How's my wife? He said, let's go see your kid. He wouldn't answer me. So then we walk over to the NICU, and there's a sea of babies. There's probably 15, 20 babies sitting here in this room. And he points and he says, that's yours. Now, I told my wife after this, I said, it was like going to the pound, right? I didn't see this kid come out. There's a sea of these puppies, if you will. That one's yours. Start loving that one. And so it was really hard for me in the beginning to learn how to love my first kid because I didn't get to see him come out, didn't know how it was. I'm worried as crap about my wife. And so I go and I pick up my son, and they tell me this one's mine, so I'm going to start loving it. And I just broke down. I broke down super hard. And even this doctor, he broke down with me. He started crying with me for a minute, and he said, hey, we're going to work on your wife. And so the person that was still left in the room, because he wasn't there, was working on my wife. So then I'm trying to, I don't know how my wife's doing. I'm trying to go help my son, because every hour you have to feed him at this point. And so they're mixing formula. He can't take the formula very well. But a huge miracle to him, he was 10 times stronger than he should have been for how early he was. By the way, he's 4 pounds. So this little teeny tiny thing, like literally I could hold him with one hand.
He was so cute. He had a full head of hair.
He had tons of hair, but he was totally small. So I'm sitting there trying to feed him. He's having a hard time, so we eventually end up putting a feeding tube up his nose, and then you actually just have to force feed it into his stomach for him to be able to eat. It was hours later.
Jake took care of him for the first 24 hours, completely. Changed all of his diapers.
And I was exhausted. I couldn't sleep, so there was no sleep. We have pictures, and I'm just freaking dead, but holding my son. Finally, they bring her out. She's fine. She's stable, which is crazy. She's stable, and I finally get to go see her in this little oxygen storage tank room. That's all they had.
Yeah, they didn't have rooms available, I think, at that point, so they had me in this storage room.
And it
had been so many hours. I don't even.
It was probably
16 hours after the surgery.
Yeah, something like that. And she was so white that I was still so scared. I felt like
at that point we found out later that I had a placental abruption is what happened. My placenta tore off of my uterus and I hemorrhaged. So
and
I
the
just
doctor
bled
said baby has 10 minutes of storage oxygen once that
in their cord. They have oxygen storage in their cord, in their blood. And once that passes,
he says the baby would have been gone for sure.
Or brain dead.
Yeah. Regardless, if they wouldn't have caught it within that 10 minutes of the abruption, baby would be dead, and mom for sure would have hemorrhaged out and died.
So if we hadn't been in the hospital, if I had gone... So what happened was the labor itself caused... The contractions from the Pitocin is what caused my uterus to detach from my placenta, or my placenta to detach from my uterus. And if I had gone into labor at home on my own, that placenta would have detached possibly from my uterus, and then I would have been bleeding out at home with not enough time to get to the hospital, not enough time to pull our baby out, and not enough time to survive it.
Speaking of which, if you've seen C-section scars, they're normally that big.
Not usually very big. I got hip to hip for the first one.
The first one, Em's got a scar from one hip to the other hip. And when I talked to this doctor, he says when things like this happen, we're kind of in a rush. So they just cut, pull, and literally rip the kid out.
Just rip everything out.
And they just try to save one. That's their goal. Let's save the kid, which is crazy to me to think about right now because I don't know what decision I would make.
And
so
when I woke up, that first initial time, I remember I woke up, I looked around, I found Jake's eyes, and I said, "Is he okay?"
She said, "Where's my baby?"
And
I said, "He's okay. Everything's good. He's being taken care of." And immediately she was like, right back out, just passed out. So she woke up for 30 seconds max, and then immediately conked back out. And you know what's so selfish to me? I was so frustrated with that comment. I'm like, I'm falling apart here. I can't handle it. My anxiety's through the roof. And you didn't ask how I'm doing. You just asked how the baby's doing.
It's just been us for so long, you know?
And That's one thing that I recognize. So she's the best freaking mom in the world. Like I couldn't ask for a better mom. She's the best mom. And with my back this last week, she's had 4 kids, not just 2, not just 3.
Oh, I was like, no, I haven't. I have 3 kids. No, I have 4. You're right.
She takes care of me like a mom. But let's move on a little more on this because there's still so much to this later.
I do remember, yeah. You talked to the doctor at church.
Well, we're gonna get to that. That's what I want to go to. Finally, though, this is all the miracle, though. Typically, when kids are that early, they're in the NICU for usually a month or so. They have to put them in. They have to help them continue to grow because you just can't grow. Brooks, our oldest son, he was released from the NICU before you were released from the hospital.
Right. No, it was right the same time.
He was released at day 4. You were released on day 5.
Oh, that's true. I was in the hospital next.
So he was released from the NICU. They said, we are blown away, but he can breathe on his own. He can do this on his own.
And he was eating.
And he was eating now on his own. They said he is extremely strong for being this early. They said this never happens. If they're this early and this small, because he was so lightweight, we usually have to keep them until they reach 7-8 pounds before they can go away. But
he was only in there for 4 days, and I had gone in the day before, so we were actually discharged at the same time.
Yep, and so we were able to go home, and my wife was always, you told me this multiple times after this, she said, you treated me like the most delicate flower.
Yeah.
Like, if you breathed on me wrong, I was going to die.
Because, so when I had lost all the blood that I've lost, they really don't want to give a transfusion unless they absolutely have to, because other blood is just really not as good as replenishing your own blood. And so, I got to the point where I was like, I was like 0.1% away from the transfusion. So I was see-through. I was like a skinny, because I was sick the whole time, skeleton that was like pale and see-through. I have pictures and my face just looks like it's all sucked up together. And anyway, but they didn't give me blood. So I was having to replenish it all by myself. I was super weak. I was super tired. But I remember, like, you get the mom strength.
I picked up the slack, though.
You did pick up the slack, but you get like extra mom strength because of Matt Brookston being in the NICU, he did not get to breastfeed
right off
initially, and he wasn't super interested after because bottles were easy, and so I pumped, and I got up every 2 hours after he was born because I would pump and it would take time, and then I would have to go back to sleep, and I'd sleep for 2 hours, and I'd get up and pump and go back to sleep for 2 hours, and it was every 2 hours I was on that schedule trying to get as much as possible.
The first few months of this kid we were so exhausted.
No sleeping.
This is what's crazy. So about 6 months later, we're at church and we're having a lesson, and this doctor gives a lesson, and I think he had forgotten who I was in the class or maybe who it was. And we started talking about something, and he brought up this experience that he had with this young girl who is having a baby, because this is what he talks about often, because this was his career. And he said, oh, man, this is going to get me, but I'll get there. So we're in this class, and he said, I had this girl, he said that we had a crash emergency. And he said, and this is one of the times, he said, it's normal in these situations to fill the table with blood. He said, but man, this time, he said, it was raining blood off the table. And he said, I remember specifically praying so hard that we could save this young girl. And he said, and I was so worried that we were going to lose her. And then all of a sudden he looked at me, and I think he kind of like, oh, crap. He recognized that it was me. He's like, oh. And I looked at him, I said, was that my wife? And he said, it was. He said, that was just as big as a miracle to me. He said, because I didn't think she was going to make it. He's like, I knew we were going to save the baby. He's like, I didn't think she was going to make it. And he says that now for her to be where she's at today, he said, the Lord not only answered my prayers, he said, but I was there. He said, because he mentioned that. He said, I shouldn't have been there. He said, I was just hanging out at the hospital. He said, if I wouldn't have been there, he's like, we would have lost this girl. And he says, and while I was in there operating, he said, I was praying so hard. Please don't let me lose this girl. So, sorry, but for me, it's such an important thing. And I know some people don't have the same faith or anything, but after seeing how everything happens, there's too many coincidences for it to not be something that we don't have a loving God that does watch out for us, who fully does care about how we do as well. And I think he knew I probably couldn't handle this on my own. I would be terrible on my own. And so he's like, at least for Jake's sake, for now, we got to keep her. And it was just such a big deal. And the pregnancy was so crazy. And now that son is 10 years old, and he is super tall, and he's healthy, he's strong. He's like 97th percentile for his height.
He's very smart.
Super smart kid, which typically you have mental delays if you're early.
He was a long skinny thing for a while.
He was a long
I mean,
skinny
he's
thing
still
for
a
a while.
long skinny thing, but
He's had no mental delays. He's had literally zero effects. You have come back to full health. It took me a year before I could start to treat her like she wouldn't break in half anymore.
yeah, and I think it just for like the other side of this too, for the full disclosure, even I think the first 6 months was hard on you.
Oh, dude, it was hard. Yeah, so like kids.
So when they first released us from the NICU, right before they discharged us from the NICU, they gave us these videos to watch.
Yeah.
One was called Purple Crying, and they turned it on, and it was all about, babies crying, colic, that kind of thing. And if they cry, it's okay if they cry. Just let them cry.
And how sometimes you can get really frustrated
and that's when people hurt their kids and all of that stuff. And so they said, if you're frustrated, put the baby in the crib and walk away. If they're not going to get hurt, it's okay if they cry.
I remember watching that video. I was like, there's no way. People are so
Nobody
stupid.
would ever hurt. No, why would somebody ever hurt their
I will
kid?
tell you, if you've had kids, and I have struggled. Brooks would cry a lot.
That first 6
I
months.
struggled. I struggled hard. I was like, I would get so frustrated. I would get so angry. Well, why are you still crying?
He carried some resentment from
100%. I did carry some resentment.
And then also just he has anxiety. Jake has anxiety naturally, and so just the combination of the resentment, some anxiety, lack of sleep.
I've been the hardest on this son his whole life, 10 years, which I feel bad. And if he watches this one day, I love you, son, and I'm sorry, but you are fantastic. But I have been the hardest on him. But yet he has been the best. He's been one of the best kids. Like he is he's one of the easiest. Yet I'm the most hard on him. And I'll tell you, I had a struggle fully. You know that unconditional love you have for kids. And if you're not a parent, you don't get it. But if you are a parent, you get it. You literally have unconditional love for your kids. I hate to say it, but I didn't have that initially with my son. I had to learn it. But you know what gave it to me?
There are actual scientific studies though about how women get it just because we deliver a baby. Men do have to kind of witness it. They have to be there.
Again, it was like
to have that bond settle into place. Their brain releases specific chemicals when they see it, and he didn't get to be there for it.
It was like I said, we picked up a puppy from the pound in this sea of babies. But as soon as we had our second son, and I was there and I watched the whole experience, and it was still C-section, but I saw him come out, I felt more love. I just immediately felt this love for that son, and immediately felt that love for my first son. I went, holy cow. And it was like this flood of emotions of, man, I cried super hard. I think because just this unconditional love that you get, and then it immediately absorbed for my first son. And I know that's a terrible experience, but it was a 2-year difference.
Well,
but once I saw that experience,
and I was going to
say
loved
this
it
too. So differently.
This was funny.
We'll have to talk about the second one on another episode.
Well, but we can probably pop it in there. It's not very long, but we were still in the hospital. I just had a baby. I felt so good. Like, yes, I'm missing half of the blood in my body, but I don't have a baby in there anymore, and I don't have a headache anymore, and I don't feel like I'm gonna die anymore. So this is just heaven, right? Like I can eat and sleep
and not throw up,
and I feel so good. And I looked at Jake and I was like, we're gonna have another one in 18 months.
And I was like, I was so like angry at that comment. I'm like, don't.
He looks at me and he's like, we're never having another kid.
I'm like, we will talk about that when that time comes. I literally almost lost both of you. Why would you even say something like that?
He's like, you're high on medication.
Just so you know, 18 months later, when she's pregnant, she comes and tells me, I'm pregnant,
I came and
Jake.
told him, hey, I'm pregnant.
I'm like, I thought we were going to talk about this.
I said I did 18 months ago.
She's like, I did. I told you in the hospital. I was like, are you freaking kidding me? Because she was taking the birth control. That was the form of birth control. And she just quit, didn't tell me. So
we're married. It's fine.
Yeah, it was just, I mean, yes, obviously. and I wasn't like angry.
No, but he was like, we didn't even talk about it. I was like, we did.
But now after having all of our kids,
he's glad I did
it is the most joyous thing in my life.
Our second was not nearly as dramatic.
Maybe we should
be quick. It's
touch
okay.
it real quick.
It's all right. We'll be quick. So our second was not nearly as dramatic.
Preeclampsia again.
No, I had it. They were watching for it the whole time. I never fully developed all the symptoms so that they could fully diagnose it. They were watching very closely for it towards the end.
Because of the first
What
pregnancy,
he
though, we were in
was-
3 times a
Yes.
week.
And what we did find was Maverick was he had IUGR, he had intrauterine growth restriction. That means he was too small. So that was part of the reason that we were so carefully watching him. But I remember with him, the biggest miracle was we had the same doctor. He's phenomenal.
Yeah, our
and
doctor
granted,
is
granted, I will
fantastic.
tell you, the doctors that delivered Brooks are not my doctor.
Oh, no, it wasn't.
My doctor that I actually go to for all of my pregnancies is fantastic.
He got there to stitch her up, though.
Yeah, he
at
did
the
get
end.
there to help me stitch up. But my second pregnancy, he was in Disneyland when things were going wrong. It was 37-ish
There's
weeks.
something called, what is it called? I can't remember.
A Doppler.
A Doppler, and it's based off the
They're-
blood
they're-
going to the kid.
To and from. Yeah, they're checking the
from.
to and from on the cord.
And I remember this specific look. It's not supposed to look a specific way, and we go and we get one day, and he's like,
Well, we went in and the on-call had taken my appointment because my doctor was in Disneyland.
and it looked wrong. It was wrong.
My doctor had shown me what it was supposed to look like. And he's like, if it doesn't look like this, then we need to change.
And he said
something.
specifically, if it looks like this, we need to take the baby.
And so
We get there.
the doctor looked at it and I said, that doesn't look right to me. And he goes, it's probably fine. You'll meet with your doctor in another 2 days. When
Yeah,
he gets
it's
back.
okay. We'll meet in a couple days.
And I was like, excuse me.
But our doctor
Okay,
flat out
all
said,
right.
if you see this, we need to have the
So,
baby that day.
What's so cool
Because
was
blood was flowing back something the wrong way.
So I went in 2 days later to my next appointment. That's how often they were. It was every 2 days.
Yeah.
I went into the next appointment 2 days later, and I literally didn't even go in. I went into an ultrasound every time first, and that time I went in, got my ultrasound, and then went into the appointment, and he looked at
Ultrasound
me.
looked good, by the way.
Yeah, it looked fine.
It looked better.
And he looked at me and he goes, I was up all night last night with anxiety about you, and I think it's time to take him.
He said we need to take the baby. Now, by the way, this is illegal to take a kid early unless there is physically shown a problem. So at this point,
He said the last Doppler was enough for me.
yeah, and then he said I
that's-
could get in trouble though from the Doppler today. So we're gonna do it anyway. We go and we have this kid. Awesome. I actually finally get to watch it. Crazy
C-section
experience.
because he's too small. They don't want to put his body through any more stress. And I was like, well, that's
And-
fine. We've already had one.
You have such a big zipper, they don't want to hurt her anymore
Yeah.
either. But that was a crazy experience. If you watch your wife be cut in half on the middle of the table and they push this baby through her
Hey,
stomach.
but that time there was no blood.
No, it was fantastic. Really good. Really professional, really clean. And it took way longer than 3 minutes because they weren't in a rush.
It was like a 14-minute. I
But
made him
they-
record it. I have the recordings of my
Yeah,
C-section
it's
so
wild.
I could watch it.
We won't put those up there.
No.
But anyway, we get this kid out, and the freaking love, man. There was just such a connection.
My Mavi.
And what's interesting, by the way, we'll get to there was a problem, by the way, with this pregnancy. But what was interesting is they take everything out of her uterus and everything. They
They just
take
let
it
her
out, and
lay it on your
throw
stomach.
it on your stomach, kind of do things, stitch it back up, and then he goes, feel a little pressure, and he just goes, boom, and just throws it back inside. And he's like,
like, "It'll all
and I'm like,
find
it's
its
all
place."
good. He's like, it all finds its place back there anyway. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it was crazy.
Jake's like, I'm going to pass out maybe.
It was weird. Oh, it was nuts. But
Well,
then
the wild part is they're trying to simulate birth, right? So they're pushing on your
that's
upper
why
body.
they cut such a small hole. They pushed this kid.
They're trying to simulate the same feeling of going the other direction.
it helps the kid. It,
Because
like,
it helps their
squeeze their
lungs, and
lungs
it
and-
squeezes. So kids breathe fluid inside you, right? So they're trying to squeeze as much fluid out of their lungs as possible.
It's a wild experience. And so they're freaking sitting. It looks like WWE. I have my wife just sitting here smashing into her stomach. Oh my gosh, just take the kid out. And you see him pop out. And then they just kind of grab him. And they're not very gentle and just kind of rip him out.
Yeah, they kind of grab him by the head and just.
Anyway, very cool. They obviously know what they're doing. But then they take the placenta out. And the placenta, what'd they say?
So my placenta was, it looked like it belonged, they told me it looked like it belonged in either a 45-year-old woman or a 45-week pregnant woman. It was old. It was calcifying. It had scar tissue on it.
There's
it was,
so many
there's
sections of it.
and
Some of the
there's
sections were already
13
dead.
or something, and 3 of them were bald and dying,
And
had died. He basically said, he's like, I'm not sure how this fed your baby so
His
long.
relief, though, when he pulled that out, he was like,
Because
he said,
it-
I am so glad we took him today because if we would have made it another day, it's possible we would have lost him. That's crazy to me. Again, these miracles that happen,
Yeah.
he knew and had a feeling
Yeah.
It really came down to that. He was talked to.
He made it almost full term. He was 38 and a half weeks.
Yeah,
So
he was healthy.
But he was like 5 pounds.
His
Little.
ADHD is through the roof. So is ours. So we're going to talk about that on the next episode.
Yeah.
What is ADHD? How does it exist?
What to do about it. But what was cool, last pregnancy, we'll just wrap it up since we're already on this.
Yeah.
Our last one was our little Rimini. She's kind of the apple of Jake's eye. She's the only girl.
If you have girls and boys, and especially if you only have one girl.
Boys are mama's boys. The girl, she's a daddy's girl.
I don't have a favorite kid, but I definitely have a favorite daughter. Yeah, for sure.
Anyway, pregnancy was actually pretty good. She was my best pregnancy.
Everything was good.
Everything was pretty good with her. I felt much better. I was still sick for the first half, but that is normal for me. It was good. It was.
What did we get her at 38 weeks?
Actually, she was the 36 and 6 days, because I went into labor. I'd never gone into labor before, and
they didn't want her to go naturally.
I couldn't go into labor because I'd already had 2 C-sections. Once you've had 2 C-sections, that is your choice. You have C-sections, and so I could not go into labor. So as soon as I started, they said, "All right, time to have a baby."
That was nice. We got to schedule it.
We got to schedule it. I got to do my makeup and look pretty going into it. I had fresh hair. I packed a bag. It was great.
We got this little girl. You know what's crazy? And she doesn't even know this. She's got this little tiny scar right here on her thumb. She was born with believe it or not, a little extra tiny thumb. But there was no bone. It was just, it was more of a skin tag, but it had a fingernail, had a bone in the top of it.
They just tied it off.
It fell off before we left the hospital. Yeah. But I told her the other day, actually, I'm like, you had a little thumb there. No, I didn't. And she's sassy. She's, well, boy, is she a girl. She is full girl. You know what's funny? I was so anxious. Well, I'm like, something's wrong with her. She had an extra thumb.
She came out and we didn't even know it. They counted 5 and 5, right? And then
the doctors didn't know.
They didn't even notice it. And so the thing I was most concerned about was like, I really wanted a girl, and I knew this was my last pregnancy. This was it. I wasn't going to have any more. And because the doctor told me, he's like, you're pushing it. Yeah. And so
the doctor this time he did say you're done.
Yeah, when he pulled her out, he said your uterus is see-through. It is a window. He's like, the chance of you rupturing is too high. We can't come back here.
So he closed the factory this time.
I said, okay, that's fine. We had an idea that we were going to be finished.
He cut the baby making parts out.
He held him up to Jake and tossed him in
the
That
was weird. He's like, hey, by the way, factory's closed. Like, toss him over something. I love this doctor, by the way. That's why I like him.
And so anyway, we had when we got her to look her over and everything. That was the first thing, though. We're laying in the room. I've just been operated on. Well, I'm still being operated on, but they're cleaning her up, and I was like, "Is it a girl?
It's a girl, right?
It's a girl, right?" And they're like, "Well, didn't you know?" And I was like,
yeah, but we just want to make sure it's a girl.
Anyway.
But I really did. We found this little tiny nub. Our family doctor comes in, just ties a thread on it. Basically, it dies and falls off before we even leave the hospital in a few days. Because it was so little.
But Jake was like, "Is there gonna something?
Like, is
something
she gonna be
wrong
freaking
with her?
done? Like, is she gonna be?
Is there gonna be something mentally wrong?
Mentally wrong? I was so nervous. That little thumb bothered the crap out of me.
Yeah.
I think she's the most normal, but also the most
perfectionist. So.
I am really hard about being perfect on things, especially everything.
That's
that
all right.
I
like. But yeah, she's just the sweetest. It's taken her forever to grow hair. So just like Jake. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, it's taken me a while too.
But she's just a sweetie, and we love her, and she makes everybody happy. So, but we got all 3 kids. We're done.
They're all healthy. Mom is healthy.
I'm healthy. I recovered. I actually went in for my yearly appointment at the OB because I'm supposed to, and I haven't since I had her. And he was telling me that he's got a couple of ladies who actually their preeclampsia never went away. That can happen. It turns into eclampsia or HELLP syndrome, and then you just
have it the
rest of your life. And he has two girls who it didn't go away after they delivered. It's supposed to go away upon delivery, and he said they asked him, so what do we do? And he said, well, then if it hasn't gone away, it probably won't. And we'll just be dealing with this.
So thank goodness we got 3 healthy kids. We got a healthy mom.
That's right.
We got a broken dad, but I'm working on it.
You're healthy enough.
And if you can see all the experiences that we've had and how wild they have been, you can probably tell why that's why we called our channel The Crazy Life.